Well, a minister told his congregation, he said, next week, I plan to preach about the sin of lying. And to help you understand my sermon, I want you all to go home and read the New Testament book of Mark, chapter 17. And so the following Sunday, as he prepared to deliver his sermon, the minister asked for a show of hands. He wanted to know how many in the congregation had read Mark chapter 17. Every hand went up. Yeah. And the minister smiled and said, Mark has only 16 chapters. I will now proceed with my sermon on the sin of lying. How many of you knew that? Oh, you Bible. Yes. We have some Bible scholars in our midst. So here we are, and thank you for I felt your love. I was down in Charlotte last week working on my mother's estate, and I heard that Jim just gave a glorious, beautiful message. I know, I see. And so I had promised that we were going to do at least 4 messages on nonviolent communication, and I think we did, but I wanted to add one more because this is the official closing of a season for peace and nonviolence. Of course, we know that work is just beginning, right? But I wanted to talk with you some more about this wonderful work, Nonviolent Communication, a Language of Life. I think you know I'm a big fan. And unfortunately, we did order some books for you to have one last little splurge in the bookstore, but unfortunately, Amazon took them somewhere else. But they'll be here next week if you feel like you want to pick up a copy of the book. So we've talked about this tool. Nonviolent communication is a tool. It's a peacemaking tool. And it's a tool for us to awaken, as Marshall Rosenberg talks about, what's alive in us, which are our feelings and our needs and what we want to request. It awakens in us our ability to empathize and bear witness to what's happening around us and to respond with caring and compassion. Up to this point, we've learned, I'm going to give a little quiz here. Okay, the 4 steps of nonviolent communication. Let's review. So the first step is observation without evaluation, right? The value of that is when you start to initiate a conversation with someone, especially if it's a difficult one for you, that you can take your feelings out of it, your interpretations and your judgments and criticisms out of it, and simply tell the person, these are the facts, this is what happened. And immediately it creates space for, I can hear you. Notice how people shut down when they're bombarded with judgments and criticisms, right? Okay. So the first step is stating what we see without evaluation or interpretation. The second step is, what are we feeling? And I love it because I was called on this morning by someone, a congregant, who said, Sheryl, how you feeling? And I went, good. And then I asked her, she goes, I'm feeling pretty good too. And I'm like, okay, so what are we saying to each other? Right? Because I know it's a habit for me to say, I feel good. I feel great. I feel good. You know? Okay, but the thing about it is that's not really communicating. Do you really know what I'm feeling if I'm saying I feel good? So this person helped me get to, I feel peaceful. I feel available. I feel content. You see, that communicates so much more than I feel good. And immediately that creates intimacy and connection. Okay, then the next step is, and what I need is, and then we have to get in touch with what we need. And then the final step is making a request. So I love that it's a spiritual process. So nonviolent communication is a spiritual process with the intention of connecting with another being that is just like you, that has feelings and needs and wants things in their life just like you. They want to be seen, heard, and respected just like you. And this is a great tool for that. And I heard myself say this week to someone about, when I was talking to them about this message series, about, I just feel like this is like when the rubber meets the road. This is spiritual principle in action. Because I can't think of anything more difficult than when someone has hurt us, to be able to go to that person, or disappointed us, or just thwarted an expectation. In other words, we're triggered, we have some energy, and how often do we just go, and we go in the parking lot and we talk about it with somebody else? I know none of us do that. That's called triangling. Okay? We don't go directly to the person because it's too vulnerable. Or I'm gonna sound really needy, I'm gonna sound really angry, those conversations that we say to ourselves. But folks, this is a call for spiritual maturity. For us to be able to grow up past our old ways of doing things. I know I wasn't taught this in my family system, nor was I taught this in school. But here we are, and we're learning. So there's a deeper way. And so today we're going to talk about taking it even deeper and talk about expressing honestly and receiving with empathy, and also that part of us that resists that. All right? We're going to go deeper. Yay. Okay. So Marshall Rosenberg, author of the book, defines empathy as the ability to empty the mind and listen to another person with our whole being. When we empathize with others, we are respecting and understanding to the best of our ability what they are experiencing. We have the ability to empathize with another and express honestly from our hearts, and we also have the ability to shut down our hearts. And you know when you've moved out of your heart. I know when I've moved out of my heart. So we're going to see and meet both of those parts of ourselves today. You ready? Okay. So the part of our thinking and expression that comes from the heart and conveys compassion, caring, kindness, and connection is described by Marshall Rosenberg as our giraffe way of being. He uses these. Our giraffe way of being. Audiovisual object lesson. Okay. When we speak from a place of compassion, caring, kindness, and connection, we are communicating giraffe, okay, which is a language of the heart, a form of interacting that promotes the well-being of ourselves and others. Did you know that the giraffe has the largest heart of any land animal? Did you know that? Is tall enough to look into the future. Let's hear it for tall. And lives its life with gentility and strength. That's giraffe, okay? I'm going to put you right here. Okay, when we're embracing our giraffe way of being, we're speaking from the heart, and we can talk about what's going on with us without judgment, without criticizing, without condemning. On the other hand, the thinking and expressing that we do that mentally classifies people into good and bad, right and wrong, judgment and criticism is, hold on, our jackal way of being. This is a jackal. Did you know that the jackal moves close to the ground? It is preoccupied with getting its immediate needs met and does not see into the future very well. The jackal represents that tendency for us to analyze, judge, and criticize. When we are communicating jackal, we are generating defensiveness, resistance, and counterattack. Jackal communication is good for telling people what's wrong with them. It comes from the head and really enjoys making demands. So we're going to put you right here. Okay, so, and just remember, these are both, we all have this. We both have both aspects of this, right? Okay. You're looking at this. This is you. Okay, this is me. Okay. Giraffe communication creates connection and love. Giraffe creates harmony and makes requests from love. Jackal creates separateness and fear and generates conflict. Okay, as giraffes, we realize that we're responsible for our feelings. This is a big thing with nonviolent communication, folks, and this can be the tricky part. Because how often have we said, you made me feel like, or that made me feel like, And when we're in giraffe mode, we realize that we get to take responsibility for how we feel. No one has the power to make us feel a certain way. Do you get that? It can be a stimulus. But in jackal mode, we blame. The source of our anger lies out here somewhere, and then we just feel justified to say things that hurt, judge, and punish. And we also, when we're in jackal mode, mandates and directives. Yeah. So, regarding mandates and directives and ultimatums, how have they worked for us? I know. The greatest resistance is created when people are told they should, they have to, or must or ought to do something. So how do you feel when someone says that to you? Do you feel motivated? This way of speaking eliminates choice. And what we have learned that the freedom to choose to be independent and free is considered to be the most important human need. No wonder we feel like the knuckles get hairy, the fangs come out, right? Do not make a mandate, an ultimatum, or directive. So Marshall Rosenberg states that behind every intimidating message, meaning a message loaded with anger, control, and hurt, is a person appealing to us to meet their needs. Folks, that's what's underneath it. There's a need not being met. And I know that I've talked about, probably ad nauseum, about this workshop on this cruise that I took in 2006 because it was so great. You know, it was a Unity cruise. We're going to Alaska. Had the breakout session with Marshall Rosenberg in the bar. And it was just wonderful. And I was looking through my notes as I was preparing this message, and I thought this was so beautiful. This is a level of mastery. But this is what Marshall Rosenberg said, and I wrote this down. The worse the insult someone gives us, the more the request is, see them beautiful. Now, I don't know about you, I think that's pretty masterful. Someone gives us an insult, someone says something really hurtful to us, and Marshall Rosenberg says, see them beautiful. And ask ourselves, what is alive in this person? What are they really feeling? What do they need? In the midst of resisting them, try to see them as having the same needs as you. And I believe that's the whole point of nonviolent communication. It gives us a structure to do that, folks. It helps us access our giraffe. And it's not always easy to do, because have you ever, when you've been hurt, have you ever just turned off your heart, like all of a sudden the person is no longer a person, they're just kind of a thing. They're just kind of an object. Okay, let's be honest, you don't have to raise your hand or anything. But you know how that feels. Because for those of us that weren't raised in unconditional love, it was conditional. We had to be a certain way to be loved, and if you had to be a certain way, the love got turned off. The silent treatment, avoiding. Yeah. But see, this is the thing. This is why it bugs us so much, because at our essence, we care. Why does it hurt us so much when someone says something hurtful? When someone judges us or criticizes us? It's because we care. It's because we love. And when we're hurt, to self-protect, we will shut that down because it feels too dadgum vulnerable, right? But if in those moments we can admit to ourselves how much we care. Because if we can open up our giraffe heart. And folks, this is not about being a doormat. No. Let me tell you, it takes great strength to admit in the midst of a conflict how much it hurts because it matters to you, because you love. It's about strength and wisdom. Author Mark Nepos, one of my favorites, included in one of his daily journals, because he wrote this daily journal book, this poem by William Blake that said, "I felt angry toward my friend. I told my wrath did end. I felt angry toward my foe. I told him not, my wrath did grow." Have you ever had the experience when you've been really upset with someone and that person, you went to that person directly because you cared enough to go directly. You wanted things to be better. And when that person opened their heart to you and heard you and saw you and listened to you, the impact of that on your relationship, it's so beautiful. Because, folks, the thing is, we think if we just stuff it and we just keep going, we're just rolling right along, we're doing just fine. But I tell you what, it's still in there. And it noodles up, and it expresses itself in weird ways sometimes, in ways that we don't want it to express in order to create connection and authenticity and relationship and integrity. You see? So, what if we could use this beautiful tool to just say to ourselves and to say to the other person, I don't want to go on like this. Can we just sit down and have a conversation? And you don't have to do the steps just right. You just need to go to the other person and say, I don't want this to continue, and I just want to connect with you because I love you. Can we work it out? It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. One of Mark's final words regarding this said, while we dread voicing our fears and hurts to one another because it feels so vulnerable, he said, love has no way of being acted on without something truthful to respond to. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Love has no way of being acted on without something truthful to respond to. Love is just waiting to express. But when we're inauthentic and we're guarded and we're protected, it has no way to get in. And I know it can feel so naked and so exposing to say, I feel really hurt. When this happened, I felt this is what I need and this is my request. So, let's embrace these sides of ourselves. Got a visual image for you. And know that this is part of the human experience. We all have giraffe. We are giraffe. It's who you are. And this is a little that comes in from our conditioning. But this is not the truth of who we are. So this week, I'm going to invite you to do some work in the stillness. And to be honest with yourself as you journal. What are you working with? What's the hurt? Who are you upset with? Take a deep breath and feel the safety of your space you're in. And imagine what it would be like to sit across from this person and have an honest conversation. Now, I know that sometimes we can't do that because maybe they are unwilling or maybe they're not even on the physical plane anymore. That does not mean we can't have this conversation. You can put a chair in front of you and you can just say, okay, this is what happened, this is how I felt, this is what I need, and this is my request. And if they're not there, it goes really well. Just bring forth your giraffe self, folks. And I want to plant a little advertisement seed. We have a congregant named Maureen Hilton who's very passionate about this work. And it's called Community from the Heart, a.k.a. the Connection Practice. And it marries nonviolent communication with heart math. And she is going to create a workshop in July, either July 13th or July 27th. And I just really want to recommend this work. It's amazing. You will walk out with it even more in your bones and more able to communicate it and work with it in your life as a tool. So thank you for being the space for me to communicate these teachings that mean so much to me. And I just see us being more mindful in the world and just sharing our beautiful giraffe selves, because that's who we are. Let's affirm together. I have empathy for myself and others. I am love, and I express it in the world. Bless you. Thank you.